What's up, everybody? Today we're going to talk about why you're further behind in PvP than you thought, and why you should care. So we're also going to go through and respond to the PvP pieces of the news blog post that came out a couple days ago that had suggestions from the community, and we're going to tie that back into how I would be approaching the PvP aspect of the game. So first, why do we care about PvP? Right now, there's the Great Hall, and the rewards from that are decent, A lot of people look at the accuracy bonuses and see that as the big win, but as we get further and further into the game, having things like 25% crit damage, 20% defense, 20% attack across all your champions is going to be really big. Decent amount of rewards in the game for PvP now, but I think some of it just as it scales up becomes feels unobtainable to players. And the other side of the rewards is the weekly chest. So one of the suggestions was improve the arena chest rewards, which I agree with. I think right now it sucks that the Gold 4 chest feels worse than a clan boss chest, and you get a clan boss chest every day, whereas you get a weekly arena chest. So I hope they either make that better or add in a lot other stuff. So I don't even think about that right now. I wake up Monday morning, you get a Gold 4 chest, and then if I'm lucky, you get 1,000 silver or 100,000 silver for selling everything. I don't think I've ever gotten anything useful out of that. But the answer to this question, on improving the arena chest rewards was that they're working on making the entire PvP side of the game much bigger. So there's gonna be more to come here. I think that if we end up getting a lot more rewards and you've slacked on your arena medals until now, and you're playing against everyone who has 20% more stats and everything than you, then it's going to be hard for you to compete in earning whatever new rewards there are then. So I think keeping up with things and being able to stay on the leading edge in order to get the most rewards here is pretty important. As well as I think there's going to be other aspects, things like clan v clan, or other types of PvP content, which will give you lots of rewards in the future. So that's why I think we should start thinking about that now. So the next thing that I want to talk about will probably be the bulk of this video is suggestion 8, do something about the speed meta in the arena right now. So their answer here was just hey, we're going to work on the overall idea of PvP, and that's kind of the answer. We think things will balance out as they come. And my first thought of this was that this was a big non-answer, but the more I thought about it, the more I really agreed with kind of what they're saying here. My biggest complaint with Arena right now, and I kind of hinted at it a little bit earlier, was that the current meta isn't really speed meta. That's a manifestation of what people are thinking, but it's not. I think the meta is more just how can you try as little as possible and get some rewards out of the current system. So because the top rewards that are there right now are not that difficult, and the Great Hall feels like an eventuality where if I get 100 wins a week, in a year from now, I'll max everything out, and there's no huge rush to get there. So no one is really innovated or thinking that hard. If you saw one of my other earlier PvP videos, the bulk of the time that I've spent thinking about my arena team in the past month has actually been how do I make arena autoable. I have a team that I'm pretty confident in winning most arena matches and be able to go through and win, but I was actually limited to how much I was progressing just because the AI kind of derps a lot. So I had to play the team on manual. So I actually spent some time thinking about, let me just make a team that won't win quite as much, but I can just hit the auto button and just crush through a bunch of games. And, maybe I lose 10%, but I play 100% more. And that's the depth of thought and strategy that has gone into it. And I'm definitely not the only one. So I've been at 31.99, the highest arena rating you could be, for a couple of months now. And I'm actually a little concerned, even from my point of view, being a player that has one of the better arena teams out there, in that I haven't improved anything in a while, and I know a lot of people that they're playing the speed meta and their turn meter booster is 260, 270 speed, which when you ask them about that, they're that's good enough. I'll cherry pick my games and I'll win enough. But I also know many of those people, if they shifted things around and they really tried, they could probably add another 20 speed to that. So for someone who I know, my best speed pieces are my Arbiter, and I'm around 300 speed. As soon as the majority of people start to focus on this and pass me in speed, this arena team does not work versus anyone else. As soon as someone is faster than me, you usually end up losing. So there's a lack of rewards, which then translates into a lack of trying, which leads to a stale meta, because again, it's just how do I auto this as fast as possible. So I think they're right on this. I'm really hoping to see that, Hegemon is like something that's kind of interesting here because it's forcing the issue. It's not having to do with like gear or trying. It's just like, oh, look, I pulled a Void Legendary, which makes Arena a lot easier because it lets you, without having a gear bar, just always go first, which is nice. So I think seeing more Hegemon will take a while because he is Void Legendary, so you're not going to see a ton of them. But as things get better, I do know a couple people are playing around with things like high resist teams or like highly defensive teams, and they feel not great right now. It feels like if you're like a top player, then you can beat a mediocre player with a different strategy. But I also think part of that is because the current meta is so focused on clan boss, not necessarily meta, but like what players are focusing on. And so as a result, everyone's maxing accuracy. So if you take a look at my Great Hall, I have almost all the accuracies maxed. I don't have Spirit Affinity because I don't really run any Spirit Affinity champs that need accuracy, but I have almost all those maxed, and I just recently started working on resist. But being tanky in this game really relies on also having resist, since, decreased defense and weaken are so strong. 60% defense break ends up being kind of like pushing the scaling favor in towards attack. And then the other side, if you want to have like equivalent resistances to what people are doing on accuracy, there's like this natural force that most people have like 20 resistance from the Great Hall, but 80 accuracy. So accuracy is kind of winning out right now. But as the game continues to be out longer and people end up maxing the Great Hall, and I know a lot of top players, like myself, are maxing resistance now in Great Hall because it leads to the most player power, which is kind of another issue altogether. But really interested to see where this goes as gear becomes better, glyphs become more plentiful, and most importantly, as the rewards become there, so people actually try and end up doing some stuff here. So I'll kind of end this rant about no one trying in Arena with one thing, in that there's a really interesting blog post out there that I'll have to link in the description, talking about how one of the earlier Smash Brothers games, competitive fighting scene that didn't have online patches, how the tier lists and like what characters were good actually changed pretty drastically over a period of like 5 to 8 years, just because people discovered certain things were good, or when one thing became good, something that was good against it became good. And it actually was a lot more fresh and interesting than you might have expected without, the developers coming in and changing things up in order to do that. So I think my big ask for Plarium is, if you want to make the PvP side of the game super interesting, I don't think there's anything huge that needs to change. I think we just need some rewards. Give people a reason to try, give people a reason to play around with stuff to see what's good. And I think it'll open up a whole new aspect to the game. And I'm pretty hopeful here. I think you've seen a lot of other similar games that have a pretty big PvP endgame. I think it's natural for the developers as well, because as gear scales, any sort of PvE that comes out becomes like dead content eventually. Like, imagine if all the developer time that was spent on like tuning Nightmare, obviously it'll always be a stepping stone, but now that Ultra Nightmare is out, it's not really something that takes up like headspace for a player, for like an average player. Like, they don't spend time tuning for it. But PvP, since it scales on the players, as the players get better, the content will always be challenging to some degree. And so it's kind of like ever-living content for developers. So it's super interesting from a perspective of leverage for them. So that's kind of all I had to say on that. Hope we see some more rewards there. Would really love to play with some of the characters in my vault and see how good they are at PvP. Would love to actually need to fully deck out a new type of team, or to play with some new champs in the arena, as well as like see some sort of like real-time aspect, so that we're not just playing against the AI all the time. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know if you've lost to Hegemon recently, or if you've seen something that you want to see tried out. And as always, I'll see you next time.